Uyo, uko, kuno, aho, pano. Mama wanna get it, mama wanna get it nice. I know food I meso, I know food I tebe, I know kaya marigi. Kama kwe doti kom, wengere doti kom usasai.
Kamba kwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa pane nyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugova ne.com. Kamba kwe vanogaya mari vanotaura mari vanosiya mari. Kamba kwe vanotaura feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei. Vanhu terere zvikubatsirei mukufamba kwenyu zvikubatsirei. Mirai ndikudze kuti chokwadi pano chizere. Kamba kwe vanogaya cash vanopa mafacts vanotaura straight vane evidence vane confidence plus intelligence.
Right. 21 June 2022. And today I'm joined by my usual guest on Tuesday, Dr. Fedias Mteneri. How are you, Doc?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you? And a very good evening to your listeners, your viewers rather.
Thank you very much. And you have got a large following among the CCCs, and I see you're wearing your yellow.
Actually, it's khaki, but I wouldn't mind yellow, yes.
Yeah, I'm avoiding anything yellow these days. I don't want to.
Why would you avoid it, Gambakwe? It's a very dazzling color, you know.
They are very toxic and violent people. CCC people. You saw what they did in your team there.
Not at all, Gambakwe. We can't play politics on that. We know what happens in Zimbabwe, that obviously there is every attempt to apportion blame to the CCC, but we all know where the violence emanates from, and speeches are there on internet everywhere to see who instigates violence. And I totally disagree that CCC are violence merchants. In fact, they are peace merchants, if you ask me.
Okay, Doc, I think that's not the discussion for today. We are going to come back to it another day. I promise to, I'm talking to Senator Kalipani Pugen this weekend about that very topic. So today, let's go straight into the topic of the day. And it's very sad what is happening in Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe dollar has collapsed since January on the formal market and on the informal market. On the formal market, which is the auction system, the Zimbabwe dollar has fallen since January 1, when it was 116. Today it was 350. So in the past 6 months, the Zimbabwe dollar has collapsed by, let's say, 600%, if we're to calculate, on the formal market. On the black market, says one of the economists that I follow very closely in Zimbabwe, says that in 2 weeks' time, the Zimbabwe dollar will be trading at 1,080 or 1,280, somewhere there. It's unheard of for the currency to slide in this way, given the stability that it has had over the past 4 years. What do you think, as a first question here, what do you think is causing this situation that we're seeing in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much, Gambakwe, for that question. Obviously, the crisis in Zimbabwe, which is not only the currency crisis, but also the whole economic crisis, which includes inflation, of course, instigated by the very foreign currency auction system, and basically the basic thing is the politics in Zimbabwe. That is the major driver of the collapse that we have seen. In fact, the Zimbabwe economy is no longer on its knees. It's actually totally collapsed, and basically it is politics stupid. There is no confidence in government policy. Basically, your monetary policy, which is supposed to be supported by the government's fiscal policy, there is no confidence at all. And when there is no confidence, and when people do not trust their government, there is always going to be this kind of situation. On one hand, where government is trying to, to maintain through its command system a rate, a bank rate, which is, as you have rightly said, is at 385 to $1. But we all know that the matters of economy will be determined by the parallel market rate. That is, if there is no trust, if there is no confidence in the economy. So until and unless our government decides to be honest about it and shift away from activities that encourage corruption and lining up pockets of the big guys, then our economy will continue to slide. So in a nutshell, it is the lack of confidence in our economy, Gambakwe, that has led us to this. And many advisors and critics have advised government that stick to the normal economic policies in order to take Zimbabwe out or away from this precipice.
Okay, Doc, I think many people know what is wrong in Zimbabwe. And even a grandmother in the villages knows about inflation, about devaluation, and about the lack of confidence, like you're saying. They understand. They also understand the value of the US dollar against the Zimbabwe dollar. What can be done? Before I go to the main question, what can be done if you were the Reserve Bank governor, if you were the Minister of Finance? What would you do differently right now to revive this currency?
No, well, it's available to the governor to stick to the monetary his monetary policy portfolio. But what we have seen is that the governor himself has been the major culprit, together with the policies that he has implemented against all advice. So one has to just tell him to say, dollarize the economy. There is no reason why this economy is not being dollarized. Why? Because when you dollarize, what it means is that you are allowing, the circulation of money to be controlled. Because if you dollarize, we do not manufacture or print the US dollar, but it's a more stable currency in which, as we saw in the years 2008, going forward to 2013 during the government of national unity, then you allow the basics or the principles of supply and demand to control prices, to control basically the levers of the economy. But what have we seen now with the Reserve Bank policies? What we have seen is that the auction currency itself, it has encouraged them to print money. To print money for what? To print money which increases the money supply in the economy, and this money is accessible only to the big guys, who then go to the foreign exchange auction and buy that foreign currency which is in short supply and offload it onto the parallel market. And what does this do? That continues to fuel this hyperinflationary environment that we have. So if he can let go of this command system of the economy and let the economy run by itself, that is the basic thing that he has to do. Because as long as they want to artificially control the movement of money, then they cannot at all handle this crisis. So it is literally exploding in their hands. Yet that is the simple thing they can do. But there are more other policy interventions that they can do on the fiscal side, in which the government then has to control the activity through, of course, the Ministry of Finance, is to control the activities of the various ministries, the unnecessary expenditures. For instance, just to pick on one, where you have a delegation going to Davos using a chartered plane costing the taxpayer about 300,000 per hour. So here, that again, it shows a government that that is not controlling its own activities. And within the various ministries, we see that there is a whole lot of going over the budgetary allocations. So basically, it is within the policymakers to just say, let's let the economy run on the principles of supply and demand.
Okay. You know what, Doctor? As I said, the problems are well known in Zimbabwe. And I think you are articulating some of them. There are many people here who have articulated the issues in Zimbabwe. Now, let's go to 2023 elections. We are less than a year or slightly over a year to the next elections. How do you think this current collapse of the currency, which was not there in the past 3 years? In the past 3 years, the currency was doing well. But since January, the situation has just gone bad. How do you think it's going to affect our president's re-election, especially given that everyone is complaining? There's strikes right now as I speak. Teachers, nurses, doctors, they are on strike. They started today. How is this going to affect the re-election campaign of President Mnangagwa, and also on the other hand of CCC President Nelson Chamisa?
Okay, before I go actually to the main question that you are asking, because basically your main question that you are driving at is how is Advocate Nelson Chamisa and the Triple C going to benefit out of this crisis? I will come to that question, but firstly, let me correct you when you say there was no crisis as we see it for the past 3 years, because this crisis was already there. In fact, in the first period of the new dispensation, there was quite some confidence based on the promises that were made by this so-called new dispensation, that they will do things differently, that they will start to institute, firstly, political reforms to do with the people's freedoms and all the stuff. There was a whole hullabaloo about them going to control corruption. There was the whole issues around that. But that is exactly when they even messed up, because while they were announcing that Zimbabwe is open for business, that's when we started to see these policies, these toxic policies, in which they sought to command the exchange rate, and they were told. I remember at one point, Mr. Tendai Biti actually telling Ngube that we are telling you that this will go nowhere. Just dollarize the economy and let the forces of supply and demand control what happens in the economy. And they did not do it. And so what we have seen for the past 3 years, Gambakwe, is a slide, and this was already predicted. So it was a crisis that was in incubation. So for you to say there was no crisis, I think that is not correct. But look, you are asking me how is this going to benefit the CCC? Let me just start by saying, because that is my major answer to you, that things don't work that way. That how is this crisis going to benefit the CCC? Because in asking that question, you seem to suggest that the CCC benefits on ZANU-PF's failures. That's not it. Now, when in a democratic society where there is political contestation of power, one is elected, or a political party is elected on the basis of their promises to the people, on the basis of what they give to the electorate. And in 2018 in particular, or in the run-up to 2018, what did ZANU-PF promise to the electorate? They were running on the mantra of the voice of the people is the voice of God. And attached to that, they even said Zimbabwe is open to business, open for business. They didn't even stop at that. Their major manifesto theme was that let's unite, fight corruption, let's develop our country, let's re-engage and create jobs. Right. They promised to transform Zimbabwe into a middle-income economy by 2030. They were even talking about 7 billion in FDI within the first 4 months of the new government. They were talking about attaining a growth of 6% per annum in the economy. They were saying we will target annually 5 billion in FDI inflows and about 10 billion of local investment. They promised that we will improve the health delivery system. They promised that they were going to provide support services in resettlement areas, which includes schools, hospitals, extension services, and all the like. So they even promised re-engagement, in which they were saying they will reopen Zimbabwe for global business, and they will mend relations with the international community, re-engaging international creditors who would have injected capital within the economy. And they talked about jobs, that they were going to increase jobs in agriculture, in manufacturing, in mining, and all that kind of stuff. And above all, they said there would be a servant leadership which would listen to the people. Now, 3 years down the line, what have they done? Have they managed to do what they promised? So I'm answering your question: how is Nelson Chamisa and this political party going to benefit out of this? That is not even the question. The question is, has ZANU-PF government achieved or delivered what it promised the electorate in 2018, or it was mere hot air? Now, the total question is, the answer to that, or the emphatic answer, is that they have failed, totally failed, because they have failed to implement a unifying policy in which they bring together Zimbabweans, but they have been divisive. They have made sure that they have taken us to the polarization of 2008. And why am I saying that? It is exactly what is bringing the lack of confidence in this economy. What have they done? Have they managed to do anything within the FDI they have talked about through re-engagement? No, they have not managed to do that. Have they managed to implement policies, as they said, which would bring in that FDI international and local. No. Just to give you an example, just a month ago or so, they banned financial institutions, banks from lending, which was the most harshest and very toxic policy. And they were warned that this will slide Zimbabwe worse into this political, economic abyss. But they continued on it. And why is it that they've done so? They have done so because there is a fear. There is a fear, basically, that they will lose power. But basically, there is Zimbabwe serious corruption in the country, that everyone, especially those who are in power, are like scavenging hyenas who want to benefit out of the little resources that we have. So what they have not done is to manage our resources to develop the country. And what have they done? They have accused economic shocks rather than the local shocks that they have themselves inflicted on the country, such as corruption, which is rampant, such as poor monetary policies, such as the failure of fiscal policies to control their budget deficits, such as, bad governance, respect for private property. They failed on that. And therefore, the question then comes, the question should be, has ZANU-PF done what it was supposed to do for it to be re-elected? And then my question would be, no, they haven't done. But what has the CCC done as the alternative? I think they've put in place policies which are clear to say, this is how we are going to rescue the country from this morass that the ZANU-PF government has plunged us into. They are very much clear on what they are going to do, first with the monetary issue in Zimbabwe. And the simple call is that in the interim, we will dollarize and let ourselves, let the economy itself run itself. They have said we will live within our means. So the fiscal part of the government will be to control unnecessary expenditures within government. They have said that. They have lined out a system in which how they are going to create employment, how they are going to promote the productive sector in Zimbabwe. Because right now, besides our government being more on the expenditure side, there is nothing much happening in terms of production, which can encourage export and therefore revenue to the country. So Nelson Chamisa and the CCC are not benefiting from anything, but they are proposing an alternative which is very clear. And because most of these guys, we have seen them in the GNU and they've done it, and therefore the majority of the electorate are resonating with their policy pronouncements, which make more sense. On the other hand, ZANU-PF is doing itself a disfavor because it is not delivering on what it promised. In fact, it is only accusing sanctions. But let me say, for argument's sake, let's just say, okay, there were sanctions there. You look around other countries that have been under similar circumstances, how they have looked inward, how they have tried to be very prudent and have imposed policies that seek to improve the livelihoods of their people. But what do we have with our government? It is the elite, the rich guys who are continuing to enrich themselves because the system which is there benefits them more. And as long as it is there, this system continues, they feel that there is no incentive to democratize, there is no incentive to share the cake with the generality of Zimbabwe. So Chamisa is not benefiting anything, but Nelson Chamisa has got an alternative policy package, which I think makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay, Doc, I hear you. And I think from the problem side, you have articulated the problem. But if I was a ZANU-PF guy right now, sitting in my office and seeing what is developing, I would immediately see that there's a big problem coming. Because if it's not the election, then it will be something before the election. Because what we are seeing now, there are many people who love the government of President Mnangagwa, who like what he has done with the changes that have happened in Zimbabwe over the past 3 to 4 years. But what has happened, you said this has been happening before, but to me, what has happened since January, I think it is something to worry about. And I think if I was Chamisa in the opposition, I would not lose this opportunity to capitalize on such a situation. This situation in other countries where the currency has dropped by 600% in a short space of time could become a very big problem, especially in an election year. And I know that there are obviously people in President Mnangagwa's campaign team. They've already started. You remember in 2018, during the 2018 election, the campaigning started way back before even the removal of Mugabe. Their campaign had started. I remember people were already coming here to South Africa to campaign. But the situation that is there now, no one is campaigning. The CCC guys are sitting back. They're not campaigning. They're not taking advantage of this situation. And I think that vacuum is going to create a gap for someone else to take advantage of the situation, because this situation is painful. And it seems like there's no solution to what is happening here in terms of the currency. Because as I said to Mr. Jonasi a few days ago, in Zimbabwe, the economy is actually functional. I think you were in Zimbabwe a few days ago. Things are working. The banks are working. Farms are producing. Schools are working. Factories are manufacturing. The only problem we have in Zimbabwe is that the currency is just nowhere. If something was to happen and you fix that currency and you have money coming out of the bank ATMs, if you've got exchange happening through SWIFT like other countries, if you've got commission being charged in banks, not through some street exchanges, that economy could be sparkling, it could be amazing in this region. And I think this is something that the government has not realized. If they fix this currency, the government of President Mnangagwa would be the most remembered government in the history of governments in Zimbabwe. And similarly, on the side of Chamisa, I don't think his people, they are alive to the opportunity that this presents to an opposition, where you've got a country that does not have a functional currency. And this is a necessity. To have a functional currency is a necessity. It's not a nice to have. It's something that whoever fixes it is going to be a hero for our country. Doctor, I think I've talked more than you. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No. I think I have to give a response to that, Gambakwe, which is exactly what I've been trying to say, that the Zimbabwean problem is not the currency problem. The Zimbabwe problem is not even the economic problem per se. It is the political problem. It is the political problem in that the alternative political party that you are saying is not taking advantage of this. How can they do it when the government has become so bellicose? We have a government that is thriving on trampling the freedoms, the constitutional freedoms of people, for them to be able to exercise their right, one, to vote for whosoever they want. If that can be addressed, so that takes us to political reforms that need to be done. But look, it is because that the current elite realize that they benefit out of such a system. And while they are benefiting out of such a system and they realize that there's a crisis, on the other hand, they do not want to give people their freedoms. So we have seen the CCC over the past a few weeks, when they have tried to carry out their political activities, they've come under such heavy-handedness by the state and the institutions thereof. And that is the problem. And that is why even those who can be sympathetic to Zimbabwe to say, we want to put our investment, we want to assist Zimbabwe, they cannot come. How can they come and put their money in a country where people's rights are not respected? How can they come in to put money in a country where property rights are not respected? Therein is the problem. How can they come into a country in which there is inconsistency in policies? The policies that we have seen just over the past few weeks, they smack of such incompetence that you think, does the government not know what to do? Professor Mtuli is is touted as one of the best brains in economics, but look how he has been captured by the politicians. One would think that if one was to fall from Mars, he would not think that he is a professor of economics, because what he is basically doing defies no logic. But why is he doing what he is doing? It is because he's the puppet of the hardline politicians who want this current environment to continue to prevail because they benefit out of it. Look, one major problem that we have, like I hinted in my opening remarks, is that the government, through the Reserve Bank, and obviously with the support of the Ministry of Finance, they are printing money like confetti, increasing broad money supply. And we all know that this is what drives inflation. This is what drives price increases, and the situation goes like a vicious circle. And this is known. Mtuli knows about it. But the question you should ask is, why is he not doing the right thing? It is because of the politics. So let's clean the politics first. Once we clean the politics, then let's allow a free and fair election to happen in the next less than 12 months. And once that happens, if there can be a free election, obviously confidence will be reinstalled in this economy. And once confidence is reinstalled, Gambakwe, like you rightly said, that even grandmothers in the rural areas, they know what to do. They know what is wrong. And this economy will start to tick, as you rightly said. But not until we deal with the issues. Already political temperatures, violence is beginning to rear its very ugly head, that of 2008. Already, we are already seeing the suppression of dissenting voices. Already, what are we seeing? We are seeing a very, very, like I said, bellicose government coming out hard on its people. We are seeing the institutions of state, including the police, including the judiciary, purely playing partial. And that alone will continue to fuel the crisis, which are not limited to the current crisis. Today, many people, or yesterday, the teachers, the nurses started throwing down their tools. Why? It's because they cannot survive under these situations. But what is happening to them? Already their leaders are being incarcerated on trumped up charges. Already there is going to be a spate of arrests of those who are thought to be leading the workers and stuff like that. That is a political problem. Deal with that. And then when you deal with that, the economics of this country, I think, will be easily dealt with. So it is about our politicians. Do they have the mentality to reform politically if they have the country at heart?
Right, Doctor. It's been a long time since we talked. I think we skipped 1 or 2 weeks there when we didn't talk. And we were dealing with very, very important issues. Political issues, economic issues, social issues. But I think you captured very important points, some of which I don't agree with. I think so far President Mnangagwa has done very, very well. I've been in Zimbabwe many, many times, and I continue to go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a strange country economically. There are people who are doing well, there are people who are not doing well. But the common denominator is the currency. I think there, you can see most of the guys here. You can't plan. That is well known in Zimbabwe. You can't plan for 5 years. You can't plan for 3 years. You can't plan for 2 years. All your plans are in 1 month. That is how you plan in Zimbabwe. You can't transact like someone in the 21st century. When you are dealing with Zimbabwe, you have to transact in archaic ways. You have to carry cash. You have to do eco cash. Where have you ever seen a country where mobile money is 75% of the money in circulation? Look at the money, the money statistics from the Reserve Bank. It's shocking what these guys are doing in terms of money. The concept of money in Zimbabwe is just something that I cannot understand.
Just to hold you there, Gambakwe, in one sentence, you can't say the government of President Mnangagwa is doing well, and in the same sentence, you tell us, look at the deplorable situation in the country. The buck starts and ends with the leader, with the president.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there are certain things which we don't agree with. I want us to unpack them on another show because I want us to conclude. Obviously, we have said we're going to conclude.
Okay.
The reason why I'm raising that issue is that there are systems. You remember what I always tell you about systems? The problem in Zimbabwe is not a system problem. It's a structural problem. So a structural problem is where you lack certain things in your system. There are too many gaps. And I've done about 10 years ago, I did an analysis of the Zimbabwean economy. There are gaps in that economy. Gaps in the structure, starting at the Reserve Bank. I've been doing this, saying this over and over again. Our guys don't see what is wrong with the structures. If you go to the Reserve Bank right now and ask Mangunja, Dr. Mangunja, what's wrong with the economy? He does not know how to explain it.
It's corruption, stupid. It's corruption.
No, he won't be able to explain the way you're saying now. He can't explain it. If you've got to Professor Mtuli Ngube now and say, explain to me what is wrong with this economy, they can't explain to you. We need to understand the gaps in our economy. And I think this is where I say the gaps is not one. And it's not a political leader that needs to solve this. It's everyone. And when I talk of a gap, it's when I say that it's wrong to have a currency that doesn't work. A ZANU-PF person must be happy to hear that. And an MDC, a CCC person must be happy to hear that we need to fix our economy. Because what is there now is not okay. Especially what has been happening since January. It's a recipe for disaster. It's something terrible.
But Gambakwe, what happens when a government is always scapegoating that when they are told your policies are inconsistent, you are only addressing symptoms, you are not addressing the root problems. And like I'm telling you right now, the root problems which you rightly admit that are structural. What are the structural issues, Gambakwe, we are talking about? The structural issues are that which build us as a state. As a state, a democratic state for that nature, we have got institutions that were created to give checks and balances on each other. At the top is the executive which should provide policy direction. On the other side, we have got your legislature and the parliamentarians who are supposed to coin the legal framework of the country. But we have a parliament that is captured, a parliament that for the past 3 years was annihilated, decimated. And on the other side, you have got a judiciary which is supposed to interpret those laws and put the country on the right path. It is itself captured. It dances to the whims and caprices of the politicians. What do you have beneath there? There are institutions of the state like the police, the army, the what have yous, the ZAC, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, all those which are supposed to work independently in order to give direction to the country. But what are they doing? They are dancing with the politicians of the day. That is the structural problem we have. What do we have? We have the RBZ, an institution which should run the monetary policy without looking at what politicians are saying. What is it doing? It is dancing with the politicians. That is structural, Gambakwe. The structural issues in Zimbabwe are political, and they go down to whether they instill confidence in whosoever wants to put money in the country, whether it is an external investor, whether it is an internal investor. Can we be able to get a capital from outside? We cannot. Do we have goodwill from those who would want to assist us? They have said we want to re-engage. Are they creating those systems for re-engagement? There is nothing, Gambakwe. But what do we have? We have reports of corruption by the elite. What happens? They are let scot-free. You have got reports of gold smuggling. You have got reports of minerals, mineral wealth that is not put in the right channels. That is the structural problems, the structural problem which comes from the politics of the day. And so it's not about the currency. The currency is the symptom. It's only a symptom. If you were suffering from flu, Gambakwe, it's probably because you are sitting in the cold for a long time. I shouldn't blame the mucus coming out of your nose. There's mucus coming out of your nose, you can wipe it, some more will come. But until you get out of the cold, get into a warm place, make yourself and get some tablets, proper tablets, you deal with the issue, which our administrators are not doing. Why? Because they are benefiting from this system of patronage which has brought us to where we are today. That is the problem. So the economy of Zimbabwe, we agree, or we may agree to disagree, that it will be easy to sort out unless the structural problems which are to do with the politics of the day are addressed.
Okay, Doctor, I always enjoy talking to you. And ever since I started this channel, in 2010, I was working at the beach in America. I went to America for 3 weeks. And I realized something. America has nothing. Like when you literally drive, I drove across America for 6,000 kilometers. There's nothing to the left. There's nothing to the right. The malls are empty. When you go to the rural areas, there's nothing in the malls. People are not there. They've moved to the cities. Regions are paying companies to stay because there's no economic activity. But the one thing that they've got, if you've got $1 and you walk into Walmart, man, you're a king. You can buy anything. If you've got $1 and you go to Europe, you're a king. You can buy anything. If you've got $1 and you walk to any country on this earth, you buy. And our country is different. It's been cycles of devaluation and loss of value over and over and over again. People have lost so much in that country because of the way that our currency is being managed. And I think this is something that we need to challenge each other. And these conversations, we're going to continue having them until we...
Just briefly, let me just tell you, you give a reference to America. Definitely. I'm not saying there is everything right about America, but why they have kept a stable economy, it is because they stick to the basics of the structural arrangement of their country. We saw, let's just look at the past 2 decades. We have seen different political parties coming onto the fore. First, it was the Bush administration. I'm just taking it from 2000. I'm not even going back, but you see, Bush came in, put in some political policies for which put the country into a depression. The people were allowed to vote, and they voted him out. Come Barack Obama was allowed from another political party. You know, a democratic system ran through, and he finished his 10-year, 2 terms of 5 years for 10 years. Hillary Clinton, unfortunately, because of some of the political issues that people did not agree with, could not get into power. But Donald Trump came in with his policies, and particularly his political agenda did not resonate with the majority of the Americans. They took him out. But if you look at their monetary policies, they do not diverge too much. They follow what I can call, it's called a contractionary monetary policy, in which they control the supply of the money in the economy, and therefore they arrest their inflation before it goes anywhere, and therefore prices are always stable, and of course they give opportunities to their people, so that if you work, because they call it the land of opportunities, if you can work and you have that dollar you are talking about, you can walk into a shop and buy. And so the person doesn't every day wake up thinking about the politics like we do in Zimbabwe, but it is an economy which is structurally very consistent. There is no major shift in policies, both political. And if there are any political, you saw what happened to Donald Trump, even if he was the president. Even the institutions of the state, they refused him to continue with his toxic and disastrous political agenda in which he wanted to hold on to power. The institutions of the day, even some which were Republican in nature, they stopped him. Unless we have such in Zimbabwe, where institutions can defend the general people, where institutions can start to work for the people and say, presidents come and go, administrations come and go, but our country remains for us and for posterity, for us and our children, for us and our great-grandchildren, and do not act like we are the owners with title deeds to our country, and realize that one day we will die. Then we can work for a structural structure of our country which benefits all of us. But as it stands, it's ZANU-PF's cake, and they eat it by themselves. If you are Triple C or in opposition, you are not allowed to be part of that cake. How do we build a country? How do we come out of the morass that we are in? Therein lies the problem, Gambako. Therein lies the problem.
Doctor, we can go forever, and obviously this topic is gripping a lot of Zimbabweans. Let's take it up again soon. Let's talk about it again soon, because it's really at the heart of everybody. Everyone wants to do well. Everyone wants to create wealth. And at the moment, we're not creating wealth. Thank you very much, Doctor. And I know I've asked you if is there anything else you want to say. Let's talk again next week. Otherwise, we'll keep going.
No, but then obviously you have to allow me to say, Zimbabweans, this is election season, and it is our right to build the country that we want. Let's register to vote. Let's all go and register to vote. And it is only us who can determine the destiny that we want. Politicians, no matter how strong they are, they come and go. The only permanent interest we all have is a successful, prosperous country, whether one is ZANU-PF, whether one is Triple C. But politicians, these partisan people that we have, especially running our country, should realize that their mandate is derived from the people, and they should allow the people come 2023 to exercise their right to vote. And Zimbabweans, let's go register to vote, and we will all know where to put our vote in order to set our country on the better trajectory, on a better economic trajectory, in which we are all successful, in which we all have opportunities to be prosperous, in which all of us can come back to our own country of birth and be able to do what we are doing outside here. Thank you very much, Gambakwe, for always having me on your program.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and thank you to everyone who's watching. And I want to start inviting other people to join us. So if you want to join, you can WhatsApp Dr. Fedias Mteneri, and you will come with him next time when he comes, and you'll be an extra guest. We can have 12 people here. So let's do this, and let's have this conversation.
That would be fantastic as we go towards 2023. There are a lot of your viewers, Gambakwe, fantastic, who always give feedback about our topics. And I think those voices, we should give them the platform to say whatever they want to say, whether we agree with them or we don't agree. And thanks for that initiative if you are going to implement it, Gambakwe.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Kuno apo pano mama wanna get it nice. I know food I meso, I know food I tebe, I know kaya marigi. Kama kwetu tikom, kwetu tikom usasai.
Gambakwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa pane nyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugovane.com. Gambakwe vanogaya mari, vanotaura mari, vanoziya mari. Gambakwe vanotaura feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei, vanomuterere zvikubatsirei mukufamba kwenyu zvikubatsirei. Mirai ndikudze kuti chokwadi pano chizere. Gambakwe vanogaya cash, vanopa mafacts, vanotaura straight, vane evidence, vane confidence plus intelligence.
Entertainment, current affairs and news. Gambakwe.com. Usasarire, Gambakwe anugaya mari. Gambakwe.